This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Jam-packed 2 hours ahead as we welcome you into this Wednesday edition of Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network, alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, as always. Stormy Buonantony with you. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circuit Resort and Casino. Are you feeling better today? To use your favorite word, you're a little cantankerous yesterday. Feel better?
Yeah,
feel more like you?
I feel a little bit better. What's it called? Things happen in life. You get a little distracted. You may or may not scream at one of your best friends after the show. He started it. It's fine. Things happen.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Yes, we are, I would say, one of the most handsome and well-dressed set of men in television, so I have to match that, which is why I tried my best here today.
You're a 10 out of 10. Okay, let's set the table for everything that we have to come today on the program. Time for the Rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
I'm pretty pumped for today's show because we have so many different sports and markets to dive into, including some college hoops where we had fireworks last night. BYU trailed by as many as 22 points in the second half against Clemson. They storm all the way back, plus in our lone ranked game of the day. That ended up being a tight one late as well, and I hope you were like JVT and laid the 3.5 and not the 4.5 because that cashed your ticket and not others.
Shenanigans yesterday, man. It was absolutely wild, but it was a great slate of college basketball. I was just singing the praises to you of one of these teams. I think we've got a national title contender on our hands in one of the games we watched last night, and I think they're worth adding to the portfolio. So very excited to recap what we watched college hoops last night.
Hell of a tease there, and some interesting games that we have coming up on deck as well for today's card. Keeping it moving with hoops, the NBA Cup rolls on today. I put the NBA Cup and some puck because we have a short slate in the NHL today, just 4 games. There is one in particular I feel like I have a pretty good read on, but in the association, the Magic and Knicks advanced to the NBA Cup semifinals in the Eastern Conference last night. Who will it be in the West? We'll preview those 2 games today.
Yeah, it looks like we might have some snoozers on our hands. We got some pretty big spreads in the NBA Cup tonight, so we'll see if that actually transpires. Last night was a fun night for the most part, but I hope that we have some better competition tonight. And I'm going to fancy a guess that the game with the bigger point spread might be the more competitive one.
Okay. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Also, unfortunately, we did get the news official, no Wemby for the San Antonio Spurs against the Lakers. So we'll get to that. It is a Wednesday, and we're going to keep it rolling with West Coast bias this week as well, but a bowl edition and plenty of NFL to get into as well, including, I love that you put this in the rundown today, some high leverage Week 15 games.
Yeah, this is a look. A lot of people have their different projections and what these games mean in terms of playoff percentage and whatnot. But NFL.com is a pretty interesting tool where you can look at the playoff probabilities, win and loss current, and what these games will mean. So there's some pretty important games for some teams, and you see some pretty wild swings with at least the NFL's projections in terms of probability to make the playoffs.
And we are going to kick off the day getting into some NFL news and notes. And after we started the show on such a good note and knowing you're in a good mood today, I'm afraid to bring this up a little bit here.
I was in a better mood. I just said I'm going to be more professional today.
Well, you're making me nervous to bring this up because I have to talk more about Phillip Rivers today with the Indianapolis Colts because it seems like over the course of the last 48 hours, while yesterday when we were on the show, we gave you the news, he was officially signed to the Indianapolis Colts practice squad. More and more insiders continue to say this is looking real that he could play.
Okay, I don't really understand this. To be quite honest with you, at all. I mean, there's so many different layers to this at this point right now. I'll just go back to the whole process. The thing that I keep saying is, if you were realistically going to throw a 44-year-old out there who's been retired for how many is it now, 5 years, whatever it is.
2020, last time he played a game.
Don't you think you should have been more well-prepared in the instance of Daniel Jones getting injured? I mean, he was already injured. So don't you go out and maybe do this, 3 weeks ago when we first hear about the news that Daniel Jones is dealing with this fibula issue. If you had such a lack of belief in your overall depth behind Daniel Jones, because let's be honest about this too. This is also a detriment to Riley Leonard. I mean, I understand that he's hurt, but if you realistically thought that Riley Leonard was maybe going to miss a start or whatever it is, I think you're relatively comfortable putting Brett Rippon out there for one game, we'll see, and then seeing if Leonard can play. Again, he's at the top of the depth chart they just released yesterday. But the whole noise coming out of Indianapolis is he's here to save the season. Yeah. He's here to start the last 4 games. He's here to take Indianapolis to the promised land potentially. And to me, that's something that I don't get. If this was the plan, if you were so scared of Riley Leonard taking over the reins, Why was he your backup when your starting quarterback had a broken fibula? And you could say, well, Anthony Richardson got hurt. Folks, he got hurt in like week 6.
Yeah.
So this has been your contingency plan all the way through, and now we're doing this?
Yeah.
I hate it.
I agree, especially once the fibula injury happened to Daniel Jones, you should have been more forward thinking of, okay, what does it look like behind him? Riley Leonard, we saw the report come out that it looks like a grade 1 PCL sprain in his knee. He is practicing, so we'll see what that looks like by the time we get to Sunday. But also worth noting that we've seen some reporters come out and say that the Colts adjusted their practice schedule in order to accommodate Phillip Rivers being able to get more reps in at practice. Today would typically be a walkthrough day. Instead, it is a full practice, as it will be on Thursday and Friday as well. That said, he got on the podium today, as in his arrival in Indy. He was talking to the media. We've seen some videos already trickling out over the last half an hour of him out there at practice as that gets underway. I know that Diana Rossini had that comment from someone close to him saying he was in the better shape than he was in his playing days. He looks about 20 pounds heavier than the last time we saw him, in my opinion, and I'm not in the realm of body shaming. I'm just saying what it is. And I think it was obvious enough that the media even asked him what his playing weight is right now. Take a listen.
What is your playing weight? What do you weigh right now?
Right this second? I'm not sure, Greg. How about that? That's an honest answer.
It's hilarious, isn't it? You know, it might be fat.
Wasn't that funny?
Look, dude, first off, the whole media thing, you know, I enjoy talking to you about media dynamics because you're more in those, like, traditional settings than all of us here at the network. And the whole, like, you're not there to laugh at the joke. Like, you're there to cover the story. You don't need to yuck it up with Phil Rivers. Also, to that point, it wasn't even that funny. Second, look, that's serious, and I will point this out. They have 4 games left, the Indianapolis Colts. 2 of the opponents they face, the Houston Texans, the Seattle Seahawks this week, rank inside of the top 7 in pressure rate as pass rushers. Like, this is – I don't care that you can make the joke that – or actually just not even a joke. You can make the point that he is familiar with the system, which I think I inaccurately pointed that out yesterday. Forgot Steichen was his quarterback coach back in L.A. / San Diego. I can't remember the timeline. Either way, he was there with the Chargers. They were there together.
And they've been talking through high school football dynamics apparently all season for his son, so very important.
According to reports, Phillip Rivers runs the Colts offense for his son's high school team is what Stormy's referring to here. So there might be some mental familiarity with this system. There might be an easy transition for calling the plays and getting the offense set up and doing everything like that. But then the ball gets snapped. Then you're behind an offensive line that has to face a pass rush. By the way, I mentioned that Seattle and Houston have been 2 of the best pass rushing teams in the NFL. Jacksonville over the last 6 weeks has been one of the best in the NFL. We talked about their defense the other day. Yeah. You're not going to be able to evade pass rush. You're not going to be able to move in the pocket. This is a different thing. And I'm sorry, I think teams keep trying to grasp at the ghost of what Tom Brady was in his 40s. Look what's happening with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, yes, he had a good game last week. Aaron Rodgers this season has not been the same. Aaron Rodgers coming off of the Achilles has not been the same. This has not been something that has worked out. And yet here we are. You're desperately trying to find something here. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to look like morons because you have to play, and it just doesn't look like it's going to work physically.
It is, in my opinion, like this is just reeks of desperation. That's all it is. And what has shocked me the most about this conversation, I think, JBT, is how many people, especially in the national media, are coming out and saying, well, hey, he look at how he can still throw the ball. He's the one that gives you the best chance. And I mean, you hear Jeff Saturday this morning. You hear Jonathan Jones of CBS, all of these different people, Ian Rappaport even, when he was talking about Phillip having a real chance to start this week, saying that it makes all the sense in the world. And you don't bring in Phillip Rivers if you don't have the intent of playing him and all of this stuff. And to me, it just seems mind-boggling. The fact that so many people nationally are coming out here and just assuming it's going to work. No. Meanwhile, you do have the market going against Indianapolis here already. We are out to a full 14 in favor of the Seattle Seahawks at home. And then you look to the futures market where you can find Phillip Rivers as short as 15-1, the third shot on the board to win comeback player of the year this year, when how many times have we had this discussion, JVT, about different players that the rules have changed?
Yes.
Because of this exact reason, because of what happened with Joe Flacco a few years ago, winning over DeMar Hamlin. The rules are not the same.
No, they're not. I put this up. We put the clip up on my Twitter account from Pod of the Futures last night, and I'll book the action, is essentially what I said. If you want to bet Phillip Rivers to win Comeback Player of the Year, I'll book the action. I texted Kelly Bidlin yesterday because I know he's very passionate about this. I said, Kelly, I'll shave my head if he gets a single vote for Comeback Player of the Year. This doesn't make any sense. Again, if Darnold could not win it last year, and he didn't come close, the rule change, or at least what they call it, a clarification
yes. Want me to read
of
it
the
to you?
standards? Yeah, go ahead.
In the spirit of the AP Comeback Player of the Year award, it is to honor a player who has demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity by overcoming illness, physical injury, or other circumstances that led him to miss playing time the previous season. This guidance was made last December and was implemented in the 2023 awards because of the way that season had played out.
Is this other circumstances?
No.
I made that case with Darnold last year when I said, what are other circumstances? You just read off the official language. The other circumstances, are some of these voters going to lean on that and say this is it, he can win it? I would say not. By the way, to win Comeback Player of the Year, you also have to perform, which gets us back to our original point here. If this dude's getting abused by some of the best pass rushes in the NFL over the next 2 to 3 weeks, is he even going to put up statistics that would garner even consideration for the award?
You laughed at my Life Alert comment, but I mean it.
I'm serious. You're right, actually. You might be right.
On that note, we got to step aside here. Do want to remind you, though, as we come to you live each and every day from Circa Resort and Casino, if you missed it the first time, we're giving you one last chance to score an unforgettable Vegas weekend right here, right now. The first 100 new VSiN Pro annual subscribers who sign up using the promo code Circa are getting a free 3-night stay right here at Circa Resort and Casino, January 2nd through the 5th, plus a day bed at Stadium Swim in those heated pools during the final weekend of the NFL regular season. You also get 50% off the monthly price and get a full year of VSiN Pro, daily best bets, exclusive betting splits, AI prop tools, all of it. VSiN.com/Circa, promo code Circa to get in there. As I mentioned, we got to step aside. Coming back, following BYU's big comeback last night, is it worth looking at some big numbers to back them in another way moving forward?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We did get a few quarterback updates in the NFL here in the last few minutes, and we'll start quickly here in Vegas, where Raiders quarterback Geno Smith, who's been dealing with that shoulder injury that knocked him out of last week's game, considered unlikely to start on Sunday, will not practice today, putting Kenny Pickett in line to start against the Eagles, a team that he is very familiar with as well. And then from Adam Schefter as well, for Jaden Daniels, it appears no structural setbacks after re-injuring that non-throwing left elbow, but after medical evaluations, doctors have advised he not play on Sunday. Will be reevaluated next week, but officially ruled out for this week's game against the Giants.
I keep asking the question, is Kenny Pickett a downgrade?
With how Geno Smith has played, I'm not so sure. But
I don't think so, man.
Isn't it also like cause for concern, though, that considering how bad Geno's been, Kenny was never brought up in the conversation to start games?
Well, I think that was more of a dynamic of how much they paid him, though, as opposed to, you know what I'm saying? Like they had just signed him, they're giving him the money. Actually, technically, I think the extension doesn't even kick in until next year. But I think that was more a symptom of, hey, we can't bench the guy that we just traded assets for and then signed, as opposed to, man, Kenny Pickett's so bad we can't put him out there. Hey, he had a good throw. So we'll see. But there's a lot of conversations. I know maybe we'll get to it later. We didn't have time to open the show with, but a lot of conversations about the Eagles offense and its coordinator and its quarterback. So I can't do it. I think the Raiders are the side. I'll just say that.
The market has been moving in that favor because we were at like 12.5, and now we're sitting 11.5 right now. So Raiders getting a little bit of play here. As for the Commanders-Giants number, New York laying 2.5 at home, which, I mean, the expectation, I think, especially after seeing Jaden Daniels get injured once again, was that it was going to be Marcus Mariota, which is apparently the proper pronunciation is the hard T.
The hard T?
The hard T. Yeah,
really?
That's how he says it.
Interesting.
Just saying.
Is he sure about that?
Is he? I would think so. That said, it is weird seeing the Giants favored.
Yeah. I mean, look, the one that comes to mind, so when you get these situations, there's always an example of both sides. So there's the Giants-Saints game where you saw that and you're like, Saints favored. What? What is this? And then, of course, Giants go out to a decent lead, and then they blow it, and then they end up not covering the game. And then we'll invoke the Saints one more time. The Saints get favored against the Falcons, and then they lose that game. They don't really come close. So I'm with you that generally you're looking at this and going, really? Giants minus 2.5. And the market always tells you a story. The fact that it's not really jumping to 3 is an indicator that there's not really a ton of sharp support, at least right now, that would go out and lay 2.5. But I know the total's pretty high for a teaser leg. Generally, you want lower totals, but plus 2.5, getting that up to 8.5, I think is a pretty tempting proposition for Washington.
Okay. And you mentioned it with the Eagles. We'll bring that up a little bit later. There are a few more layers to that game with the Raiders that we can discuss. But I do want to hit on college hoops here like we teased because it was a great night last night. You cashed a ticket with UConn against Florida as they win 77-73 at Madison Square Garden. And you wrote it in the rundown, which I think is very well worded. Florida with a mini meltdown late in this one.
Dude, it was a great game. Florida, of course, it does what it needs to do. It's a 3-point game, but UConn's got the ball and they're inbounding. They forced Jaden Ross to commit a turnover. So with about 9 seconds left, Florida gets the ball back down by 3. As good a position you can be in, essentially, when you're down and trailing in this situation. But on the ensuing inbound, Boogie Fland gets called for a 5-second violation. They can't get the ball in, so they turn it back over. Fland then fouls solo ball on a breakaway layup attempt, splits the free throws, desperation, no good. And so, of course, number shenanigans, falls on 4. Some spots close 4.5. You talked about it when we left the studio. We had it for 3.5 here. Absolutely ridiculous. Market was absolutely right here. Some spots opened 1.5 and drew this thing up. So Florida in another tough loss against a really good opponent. But I think there's 2 things here. First off, they can't get the guard thing right. Like, neither of them are performing well together on a given night. Flan did not perform well yesterday. He had 8 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. He gets 2 of 5 from the floor, misses both of his 3-point attempts, and commits that 3-point violation that we're talking about in the foul at the end of the game. Xavier Lee has arguably his best game in a Florida uniform. 19.6 rebounds, 5 assists. Still inefficient. 5 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 7 from 3-point range, but looked a lot better. Like, there were some... He was like ripping rebound Stormy and running. He was getting them out in transition, threw a couple of nasty lobs to some guys for some dunks. I thought Lee looked really comfortable. Near the end, he tried to take a step-back heat check. That did not go well. So, it was kind of one of those things like, look, kid, all right, you performed pretty well today. Let's calm it down a little bit. But still, you're still trying to get these two on the same page. But I have a feeling as we move forward with Florida, this might be the stretch where we start to see them work out some of the kinks. Schedule's coming up for Florida.
They have an opportunity to dominate some bad teams.
Yes, I put this in there. George Washington on a neutral, which is the 60th ranked Ken Pom team. George Washington's been pretty plucky this year. You're home for the next 3 before conference play. St. Francis, Colgate, and Dartmouth, who, by the way, did not cover yesterday against Colorado State.
Proud to be a CSU Ram. They were going after it.
Again, point spread shenanigans there because that fell right on the number, essentially. But they're, I think, going to be able to work out some demons. So by the time, I think they open with Missouri, if I remember correctly, their conference schedule, you're probably going to see Florida maybe look a little bit better. But I think these next 4 games are going to be about figuring out what's going on with these guards and maybe working out some frustrations after a really tough non-conference schedule that led them to, I think, what are they now, 5-4, 6-4, somewhere in that range. So these next few games, I think we're going to start to see some blowouts for Florida. And maybe, if you're still a believer in this team, maybe the time to buy now, just because you're going to put together some of these really big performances and the market might kind of tick a little up on them. Another
team I know you want to buy in on is the BYU Cougars, and we saw last night an awesome comeback. Robert Wright off the inbound, 1.3 seconds to go, throws up the buzzer beater to cap what was a 22-point comeback in the second half, largest second-half comeback win in program history for BYU. A game that had it all, by the way. It was delayed 18 minutes of real time for a backboard getting tilted on a dunk where the dude hung on it. But from a futures standpoint, you think there are some angles here with BYU?
Man, I might be prisoner of the moment, but I've watched them a couple of times. And maybe this is the NBA brain in me as well, but I think this team can win the national championship. You're supposed to have a diverse portfolio by the time you get in to the NCAA tournament. And right now, look, they're, as you see right here, they're all the way down at the bottom right-hand column. They're 30-1. Not that they're a bad team. I think they're the 3rd choice to win the Big 12. Big 12 is very good this year, as it usually is. But when I see a team that is we'll use a young person's term. Are you ready?
Sure.
So NBA coded. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you've got backcourt pieces that can score in isolation. DeBonce yesterday, it was great watching them. There's possessions where they would just go, here, just take it in the mid-post and work and do what you can and hit mid-range jumpers over your defenders and work in isolation and get us back into this game. And he ends up with 28 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. A really good backcourt player. They're so well coached as well. You know, I was kind of fawning over the design of the play with you on that game-winning three. I just think there's so much here with this BYU team. They're a little bit mid-range oriented, but I think for the most part, when you've got a group like that's kind of almost like the Lakers, we talked about this the other day, where the Lakers have this team that is, I think, 8-0 in clutch games because they have these singular ball handlers like LeBron, like Luka, like Austin Reeves, who can create the way they can. I think BYU's got that too. And at the college level, that really does matter. So at 30-1, I don't know, man, to add to a portfolio here, I think it's worth having BYU in your back pocket.
Debonsa scored or assisted on 34 of the Cougars' 45 points in the second half. He was all over it. From that standpoint, I know he's a young guy, but this is a young sport in college basketball nowadays. Wooden Award, any angles on Debonsa for you? He's had at least 15 points every game this season. He's been such a key piece. The Cougars are so well coached as well. I know that's a layer that you've brought up to me as well.
I think it's one of those things where we talk about this with every award. In theory, should Debonsa have better odds to win Player of the Year than 20-1? Sure. If Cameron Boozer, though, continues at this pace, it's going to be hard to take it from him. He's minus 150 to do it right now. I mean, dude, 23 points, 9.9 rebounds, nearly 4 assists per game. It barely scratches the surface of the versatility and the reliance Duke has on him at times in some of these games. I mean, we watched, a week ago, they went up against, we'll mention them one more time, Florida, and absolutely fantastic against the Florida Gators, against a very good front court. This dude has been brilliant. So I think, yes, should his odds be shorter than 20-1 considering who's in front of him? Like Braden Smith has been fine this year. But, am I going to take 20-1, he closes 5-1 and then doesn't win? I feel like that's what's going to happen for Player of the Year.
And it's unlike a Kentucky who every time they face someone good, they don't live up to the billing. Like Duke has done that every opportunity they've had against a good opponent, whether it be Florida, as you mentioned, or Michigan State, Arkansas, Kansas, like any good level, high level team that they've gone up against, they've been able to handle business.
That's a really good point. In those games, too, he's performed really well, too. 18 points and 15 rebounds with 5 assists against Michigan State over the weekend in a win.
A handful of really interesting games coming up tonight as well that we'll get to a little bit later on in the program. Do want to remind you, though, before the line moves in any sport, Sharp Play is already there. They don't just follow the market. They help move it. You're not going to outsmart billion-dollar sports books or full-time sharps on your own, but with the Sharp Plays, you don't have to. They're powered by advanced AI, connected to proven insider sources, and active across not only college basketball, but the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball as it comes back. We're getting a lot of news there, by the way. Sharp Plays delivers the edge serious bettors are relying on. Free daily reports, real-time alerts, market-moving insights straight to your inbox or X-feed. Since 2011, they've been backing it all up with documented results, public logs, and transparent receipts. If you want to check it out, so easy, sharpplays.com. Trusted by the pros, monitored by the books. Stay ahead of the line yourself at sharpplays.com. When we come back, excited to have our good buddy Kendall Valenzuela on the program, joining us like she does each and every Wednesday, talking through the fantasy perspective, which also for our purposes can help from a prop betting standpoint. How about Shedeur Sanders and the day he had this past weekend? Is that something we think can happen again? We'll discuss that and more next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Big breaking news in the National Football League. Adam Schefter reporting that the NFL notified teams today that it will shorten the time between picks in the first round of the draft from 10 to 8 minutes.
Wow.
Starting in 2026.
Wow.
We're waiting for the new rule in which if you have the first overall pick, you make it the second the draft starts.
Just do it, just like Shia LaBeouf said.
That's right.
Just do it.
That's right.
It makes no sense why they bleed the clock that long. We've been talking about it for months. We know what's going to happen. Just do it.
That's right.
On that note, happy fantasy playoffs to everybody who is still out there and invested. Obviously, we talk a lot from the DFS perspective, but congrats to those who made it. We are here, and to help us break it all down from a fantasy perspective, and obviously that helps us from a betting standpoint with props as well. Kendall Valenzuela joins us on the Progressive Guest Line like she does each and every Wednesday. Fantasy Life analyst, can catch her on SiriusXM Fantasy Channel 87 as well. And a big topic of conversation this week, Kendall, has been out there in Indianapolis with Phillip Rivers getting signed to the Colts. What do we do here?
I thought it was April Fool's when I saw it a couple days ago when they said, "Oh, he's coming in for a workout," and I thought, "Who? Are we sure? Was that real?" We do absolutely nothing but downgrade every single person on this offense. Like, I want it. You guys know me. I'm trying to be an optimistic person here. You're not doing anything with Phillip Rivers if he does end up being the quarterback, and even if it's not him, right? Because he's signed to the practice squad. They still have Brett Rippon. Maybe Riley Leonard can go. No matter what quarterback combo we go with this weekend, you downgrade everyone. And it's so unfortunate. Alec Pierce was someone you were probably flexing. Michael Pittman Jr. has to be a downgrade. The only person I'm not downgrading as much, who doesn't get as big of a hit, is Tyler Warren, because there is a world where I do believe that he just becomes the security blanket for any quarterback that's out there. And he could get, the targets that we at least see him, get some kind of fantasy points, but he's still right borderline outside my top 10 tight ends this week. Jonathan Taylor, even someone that probably got you to the dance, but could be your demise. You have to downgrade him as well. So it's unfortunate. You're not doing anything with Phillip Rivers if he gets the start. You're not streaming him. You're not doing anything. You're just taking a big sigh and just saying, dang, hate that this happened.
Yeah, JVT, you brought up in the commercial break, are you not just taking every defense that's going to face him if that were to be the case?
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk a lot about individual players, but Kendall, if they're available, you're streaming some of these defenses against him too, right?
Yeah, this now becomes one of those situations where you just say, yeah, you have to play the matchup. So I think I said that the Colts also get, the Seahawks are already going to be well rostered. You're not going to be able to pick them up. They get the 49ers in week 16, then they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. They finish things out with the Texans. So 2 out of the 4 of those teams might be available to you. If you have playoffs that run, all the way through week 18, it's something to look at there. But Jacksonville and the 49ers, yeah, I think, especially if it's him, I mean, he said he's in the best shape of his life. I do not believe you. I just don't.
Can I ask really quick? You kind of alluded to it, so it's more of a betting perspective than anything else. Because I thought about playing Jonathan Taylor over receptions this week. Because no matter who it is, like with that pass rush, it's a high rate of targets, but that doesn't necessarily translate to fantasy production then.
Yeah, my thing that I look at with Jonathan Taylor is that when Daniel Jones was in there, they were allocating some defenders and saying, okay, we have to put some guys on him just to be able to stop him. Now, every team is going to know how you stop this Colts team, and that is putting a lot of defenders in the box and making sure that Jonathan Taylor goes absolutely nowhere. So that's the only thing I worry about, is that the pass game isn't that strong. And I'm not kidding. Like, maybe we do see Phillip Rivers go out there and he can complete some passes. Okay, that's great. They know at the end of the day, their bread and butter to win these games going forward is going to be through Jonathan Taylor. So I think defenses are going to pay extra special attention to him.
I wanted to ask you about Shedeur Sanders, who had an incredible fantasy weekend this past week, 394 yards, 4 total touchdowns. Granted, it was against the Tennessee Titans, a loss in that game, but Kevin Stefanski came out and said that it's going to be Shedeur the rest of the way. Is he someone you think from a fantasy perspective should be grabbed down the stretch?
I think you can grab Shedeur Sanders if you're looking at super flex formats. And I think, when we talk about that, most of those guys are probably already picked up. I have him as my QB 25 this week. So I think you have better options if you need a streamer. I still think Tyler Shuck is a better option. He's 1 spot ahead. If you're looking and CJ Stroud's around there, dare I say one JJ McCarthy, who could also break our hearts, but he is facing the Dallas Cowboys defense, who we know we always just kind of pick on because they're just that bad. So I think there are better options out there for you than Shedeur Sanders, but you like what you saw. And in terms of players that you start on that team, it's Quinshon Judkins and then Harold Fannin Jr. So if you need a tight end streamer, like Harold Fannin Jr. for me, the rest of the way might be a top 6 tight end. And that's even knowing that they're not going to face Tennessee every single time. So I really like Harold Fannin Jr. I think he's a sleeper. I think he's been slept on too much this whole year. He's still over 50% available across some Yahoo leagues. So I think he's the one that you go and pick up, because he could end up, I don't want to say league winner, but he could get you some very nice fantasy points down the stretch.
Okay. I'm glad you brought this up, because I was going to bring this up to Stormy later. I'm going to pull you into our world for just a second.
Perfect.
I'll lead the witness just a little bit. Among rookie skill position players, where would you put Harold Fannin in terms of how he's performed up to this point and what he could be by the end of the year?
I would put him probably inside. Like, look, Emeka Egbuka, he's been awful. Jackson Dart, I don't think he's going to run as much. You look at Tedero McMillan, I think he's at the top. Quinshon Judkins, I'd put him firmly inside the top 5, right? Rookies right now?
I'll just ask right now, could he win Offensive Rookie of the Year? Can he do it?
Oh, my goodness. I would say no, but that's just because it's the Browns. I'm sorry. That's just because it's the Browns and it's Cleveland. I don't know if they do the right things. But the good part is that Shedeur Sanders has been named the quarterback the rest of the way. So the connection between the two isn't stopping anytime soon. Like Stormy said, like they don't get Tennessee every single week, but I see where you're going with it.
Right.
I see where you're going with it.
From a number standpoint, I would say 60-1, probably a little bit long for what he's done, right?
Well, and what Kendall hit on, which was my most important point, and actually I brought this up on Pot of the Futures with Mitch Kendall, which was the defenses that he's facing moving forward are not some of the best tight end defenses when you look at like production, FTN fans, all those sort of things. And so the theory here is that he ends really strongly, surpasses maybe 1,000 yards, and all of a sudden you're looking around at a somewhat weak Offensive Rookie of the Year class going, like we've got this 1,000-yard tight end for the Cleveland Browns who ended on a really hot run and maybe all of a sudden is looked at as the best rookie.
Well, and that's why I'm looking a mid-range tight end 1. Like, and he gets the Bengals. Like, he could hit that mark in Week 18 against the Bengals. If you're looking at any time where he could surpass any Tedero, McMillan, or whoever's in the lead at that point for Rookie of the Year, maybe it's Week 18 because they can't. Them tight ends, you could start any of them. You could start David Njoku and Harold Fannin and whoever their third tight end is in that game.
All right, let's go to the running back room a little bit more here. Who do you think would be worth a pickup coming into this week?
Yeah, so we're still waiting on news when we look at the Dolphins for Devon Achane. I hope Achane can go because that would absolutely be a blow to Week 15, the start of the playoffs. He went down with a rib injury. They said that he could have returned if absolutely needed. Do we believe them 100%? No. So I think Jalen Wright's the running back you pick up, especially in those deeper formats if your roster or if your waivers are still open. 3% rostered over there, and then 2 others that I think are borderline startable, especially Blake Corum. So it's not the easiest matchup, but I think Blake Corum going into this weekend for the Rams is someone that is flex worthy just because of what he's been able to do, even with Kyren Williams still out there. We saw him with 12 carries, 128 yards over the weekend, 2 touchdowns. You don't get that every single time. But I think he's getting enough work where you can start him in the flex if you're really desperate at the running back position as well. And then Devin Singletary. I mean, they had their bye. Tyrone Tracy said he was good to go when he went down 2 weeks ago with that hip stinger injury. So even though he's still good to return, I think Devin Singletary is getting too much work to not look at him and say he doesn't hold value. So I think Devin Singletary is another one as well.
All right, a unique question only because I actually just got cut from my guillotine league, but I find this an interesting aspect of the challenge as you move down the stretch. It becomes an embarrassment of riches when you survive so long in the guillotine league. So how do you sift through having so many players like that?
Yeah, I think, and it's an interesting question. We got a call about that this morning on Sirius XM, a guy saying, I have everyone I could ever want, but CMC's on the waiver wire. What I do now, because I'm still alive in 3, and my goal this week and next week is to take away some good players from my people that I'm facing. So what I like to do in guillotine leagues right now is I like to look at the fab that everyone still has left. Hopefully you have money left. If you don't, that's totally fine, but this does not apply to you. I look at my fab and I look at everyone who I'm playing against. And I say, how can I get, for example, CMC? So I've got $205 left. My opponent has 182. I'm going to bid 183 to just take him away because at this point, at CMC you're going to play every single time. But for some of those other elite guys that might be on the border, I just want to take them away so that they don't have them because that could be the difference between getting chopped in Week 15 and winning the whole thing.
Kendall, awesome stuff as always. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Kendall Valenzuela, again, she mentioned it, SiriusXM Channel 87. Make sure you check her out there. All of the work also at fantasylife.com. And I think she set the table nicely for the conversation we're going to have coming up after the break when it comes to the awards markets. We're going to get into Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. And a big question, especially in that Offensive Rookie of the Year market, should Tedero and McMillan be odds on at this point in the season? What do you think? Quick, rapid answer.
No. Well, it's quick. You want it quick and rapid. I don't know if you had something
like 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you had something to read. No, I don't think you should be.
Minus 155, the price right now. We'll discuss that market and more.
Plus, how much would you sell your jersey number for?
I mean, apparently just a phone call in Indy. That's all it takes. We'll be right back on Money Moves.
watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Couple quick news items ahead of Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow between the Bucs and Falcons. Big game for Tampa Bay in the standings for the NFC South as the Panthers are creeping up on them there. They're laying 4.5 against Atlanta, total 44.5. Drake London, I think, as expected in terms of the progress where he's been for his knee, officially out for a fourth straight game. Kyle Pitts also working through a knee injury. He was limited yesterday. Defense could be without some of their top pass rushers as well. Brandon Dorlus and Jalen Walker, both questionable. But for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, some good news for them, it appears. Todd Bowles didn't officially say that Mike Evans will definitely be playing, but apparently he has reached all of the thresholds that he needs to reach, and that's the expectation.
You know, every week, and this was the NFC South as a whole was also a topic on Pod of the Futures. Check it out. And when you go and subscribe for Money Moves, wherever you get your podcast, every week we're like, hey, they, being the Bucs, they're going to be healthy. They're going to, they're going to get it together. And every week we are left wanting more. So maybe this is the week. Maybe you can finally get your ish together here on a Thursday night and take care of business. And as you alluded to, a very important game in the NFC South. Not so much for the Atlanta Falcons, who might be looking for a new head coach next year.
They're 1-2-3 Cancun.
Yeah, but for the Bucs, I mean, dude, I know they're only 4.5-point favorites, so I'm not going to say that they're like favored to win. I'm saying you can't lose it. Like, this is a you cannot lose this game type contest, because with 2 games left against Carolina, and in your purview, we'll call it a bingo free space in that you assume they're going to lose to Seattle. Like, you've got to win this game. So we'll see if they can do it, but a very important contest for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's good that they're going to get healthy.
Yes.
Or somewhat healthy, allegedly.
They're still $3 favorites in the NFC South, but they have 2 head-to-head games with the Carolina Panthers upcoming, and this obviously, this took a hit. They were minus 500 when we were talking about this a week ago. Took a hit with the loss to the Saints. The Panthers were on bye. And coming off of a win over the Los Angeles Rams, if you are a Panthers backer recently, that they have the potential, depending on what team shows up, to beat anybody.
Yeah.
And you have a Bucs team that, yes, you get Mike Evans back, but how many layers of this team have been injured, including what is Baker Mayfield right now? I think that's something that's not necessarily being talked about enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way I put it when we were talking about this yesterday was, there's the highest point for the Bucs this year, which seems like an eternity ago, was the maybe best played game that we've seen all season, which was the shootout against Seattle. Mm-hmm. Remember, it was 38-35.
It cost me a survivor entry. I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I forgot about that. But, the high point for Tampa Bay was so good. I mean, you see it. They, at that point, were 5-1 or around there. No, they went to 5-1, not to throw more salt in the wound, when they beat your 49ers the next week.
Wow, you're just really laying it down here.
But since then, as you see, they have not been the same team. Some of that has to do with Baker Mayfield's injuries. And so my whole point here being is, Carolina has achieved their peaks here a little bit later in the year. They seem to be kind of coming together and at the very least hitting I don't know if you want to call it a stride, but getting comfortable in where they're at. Where Tampa Bay, I think Baker Mayfield is a lot more injured than you would think. Mm-hmm. And maybe the return of Mike Evans is going to help that out as well, because there's a stat floating out there about the Emeka Buka's reception rate really dipping to under 50%. Part of it is just Baker Mayfield kind of spamming him with targets as opposed to developing and going through your reads. So maybe it just helps everybody involved. I know obviously that's not saying anything out of the realm of possibility or anything crazy like, hey, Mike Evans helps you get better. But I think it just helps everybody get more productive.
I mean, Baker health, wide receiver health, offensive line health, linebacker health. They've had issues in a lot of different layers of this team. But you bring up Emeka Egbuka, and speaking of the NFC South, the offensive player of the year appears to go through that division right now, with Egbuka and Tedero McMillan being your odds-on favorite right now at minus 155. I know you wanted to discuss this market because you thought there was some potential value, as you talked about with Kendall Valenzuela last segment with Harold Fannin. Do you? Well, how firm are you on that? Is that a play that you wanted to add to the account?
If I could, before we get to Fannin, I think you have to start at the top. Does McMillan deserve minus 160?
No.
That's what I think, too. I mean, so I go back to, the last Sunday they played. when almost prophetically I ask you, hey, where's Teteroa McMillan been? Has he been injured? Because he hadn't had a target or he hadn't had a catch yet at that point.
It was legitimately like within seconds that he has the 43-yard touchdown to win the game.
But like the whole point here being is,
that's the only catch of the day.
Yes, and if you go back to the previous game, like he has, I think he's got less than 100 yards in each of his last 2 games. He does have a touchdown in each, if I remember correctly. But like, the production really hasn't been there for McMillan. It's come and fits and starts in some big games, but it hasn't been as consistent. And you know who else isn't consistent? Bryce Young is not. I mean, as great as he's been, look, we saw them lose to this Saints team that they're about to play. Like, we saw exactly what the lows are and the inconsistent nature of the guy who's getting him the ball. So then why would I assume that McMillan is, solid enough here as we move forward in this year that he's going to win this award? And so if I'm right in that his odds to win this are lower than what the market would say, then you start to hunt around. You can go to Jackson Dart, for example. I know you've got a long ticket on him, 22-1, 21-1,
20 to 1.
And I think that's fine, but he missed some time, hasn't been performing that well since in the game that he came back. So I don't know if that's really like solid to look at. We talked about Ibuka and his performances here. So you want to go a little bit deeper. Do you trust that Travion Henderson is going to be able to be the guy moving forward? It seems like that's not really consistent. So where does that get you? Well, it got me to Harold Fannin Jr., which my whole thought was, if you look at the Browns' schedule moving forward, it's a who's who of a lot of teams that when you look at their numbers against tight ends, don't perform particularly well. And you can foresee a scenario with Fannin, who's just over 600 yards, maybe has some really good games down the stretch. They're going to be slinging it a lot because they're probably going to be trailing in these games at the Bears versus the Bills versus the Steelers at the Bengals. I could foresee a scenario in which after a Titans game in which he statistically performed very well, he just goes on a run here where you're talking about a push for over 1,000 yards, a few touchdowns in there, and a weak rookie class around him that pushes him closer to the top than 60-1 would say.
I think the opponent's layer of it is what's most important for that, because there's so few opportunities to show what you have that you have to perform in those, and given that schematic advantage, I think that's big at 60-1. I don't know if there's a bet that I would want to make right now.
Yeah.
The only other name that really stood out to me is Tyler Warren at 8-1, but with the quarterback position in flux, I don't have any interest in that.
He's their emergency quarterback. He's versatile.
Kendall Valenzuela did say that he's the one player in that offense that she's not really downgrading. So maybe that's something to take into consideration. I don't want to buy in on anything Indy. I'm sorry right now, given the current situation that they're in. Another market that's pretty interesting right now is Coach of the Year, and maybe you disagree. Mike Vrabel is a $3 favorite right now, and given what the Patriots have done compared to how their season went last year, it makes all the sense in the world for him to win that award. But a name that you and I have been talking about since the preseason of just not really understanding why their odds were why they were there is Kyle Shanahan. And I feel that way right now, too, where he sits on the board at 16-1.
What do you mean? He hasn't done that great of a job. What adversity has he had to deal with, Stormy?
This hasn't been the most injured team ever with all of your key playmakers on both sides of the ball.
It's fine, but you act like he's pushing for double-digit wins and is still in contention in the NFC West.
Because we are.
Look at this. We are. Stormy, member of the staff. 3 jobs. I didn't know that. ESPN sideline reporter, VSiN host, and offensive assistant to Kyle Shanahan.
You're welcome.
Look, this is one of those where, again, we talk about awards all the time. In theory, will Shanahan probably get more votes, especially if they win the division? It's not out of the realm of possibility at all. When you look at what San Francisco, they're 9-4. Everybody in front of them is 10-3. They have a manageable schedule as they move forward. They've played all their games against Seattle and they won a game against Seattle.
Yep.
But Titans, look at the schedule. Titans, Colts, Bears. There is a reality where you're talking about being on a 6-game winning streak heading into a finale against the Seahawks that may or may not have anything to play for. Maybe that's for the division. Who knows what's going to happen? We just watched the Rams lose to Carolina, man. Anything can happen in this league. If this team rips off a winning streak heading into the postseason and steals the NFC West, which is certainly still a possibility, he can't win Coach of the Year?
And with Purdy missing as many games as he did. No Nick Bosa. Fred Warner's down. Like, you think about what Purdy even had to do at the beginning of the year, or Mac Jones with the wide receiver injuries. They had Brandon Ayuk, nowhere to be found. There are so many key names of this team that weren't available, and shouldn't Shanahan get some credit for getting this team to double-digit wins in a playoff? For me, I feel like 16-1, and I know you agree as well, just seems too long for considering the job that he has done when all is said and done. That board, Vrabel minus 300, Mike McDonald, your second shot at plus 750, as is Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson at 12-1, and then Kyle Shanahan. But I can't help but think about what happened to the 49ers last year and how much they crumbled compared to what they've been able to do this season. So very impressive stuff. And for as much as I love the 49ers, there might be one thing I love more, JVT.
What's that?
Staying caffeinated.
Yeah.
And you know who helps me do that better than anyone else?
Starbucks.
Starbucks, baby. And the holidays are back at Starbucks right now. And you can share the season with peppermint mocha made with Starbucks signature espresso right now. Velvety mocha and cool peppermint notes topped with whipped cream and dark chocolate curls. I may or may not ask for extra whipped cream when the time comes. Together is the best place to be at Starbucks. As a former barista, I know you love that drink as well.
Of course. Absolutely love it. It's actually my favorite drink. I'm a big chocolate and peppermint guy. And so with the peppermint mocha, extra chocolate curls, come on now.
I may or may not have already made a stop this morning to the old Starbucks.
I drink mine in the car.
We got to take a quick time out here. Back with more Money Moves after this.